Hey, how's it going, everyone? Scartafist here, back with another NBA game recap. This time, the Toronto Raptors and the Indiana Pacers. 46-point blowout, 81 to 127. Raptors playing at home in the Scotiabank Arena, February 23, 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. Yeah, the game just ended an hour ago. So, I hadn't done a couple of Raptors games in a while. I mean, the first video was against Philly, I believe. Yeah, Philly as the first video for this season. Then the reason why was because the Raptors are kind of playing relatively the same. I wanted to wait until after the All-Star break to see if there would be any major changes because I was thinking about the trade deadline, right? They didn't make any moves. All-Star break was good. Great 15-game win streak. Sucks that, got snapped by the Nets, whatever. Great performance against Phoenix the other night, putting up 140 against them. Just solid effort overall. You really could have just, turned out the game at the end of the first quarter because you could tell that it was not the night for the Indiana Pacers, and Toronto had that defensive intensity that would probably carry over for the rest of the game. Yeah, this was an ugly affair, complete evisceration of the Indiana Pacers, both offensively and defensively. And I think, I know there's a lot of things that factor into winning and losing a game, but I truly think that the first quarter was where the mistakes were made that kind of just cost the Pacers and put them in a hole that was too deep to ever recover from for the rest of the game. And I'm going to pull up my notes right now. I made a couple of key ones in the first quarter. Ibaka, he starts off hot. He starts wrecking you guys. Serge Ibaka should not be the main offensive target that you're worried about if you're an opposing team's defense. That's going to be Pascal Siakam or Kyle Lowry. If you got Serge Ibaka going, keep in mind Gasol isn't even in this game, so Ibaka was the main center. You had Boucher come on and play some minutes, but Ibaka's like the main center here, and that is not a good sign if Ibaka is getting hot because the rest of the Raptors team would get hot later on and, build off of Ibaka's momentum. And, Ibaka getting hot here just kind of reminds me of, especially this first quarter alone, or first half, whatever you want to call it, it reminds me of when Toronto just beat the brakes off the Lakers in 2018. I think it was without Kawhi or something like that. Yeah, 2018 season, they just beat the brakes off the Lakers. I remember Ibaka blowing by LeBron James to get a layup or a dunk, and Lowry getting a buzzer beating layup or shot clock beating layup at the third quarter, something along the lines of that, right? That's what this game kind of reminded me of. So I mentioned how there were a couple of mistakes that were made, and I want to point to two mistakes. And I think because even though you're Indiana and you're not hitting shots, right, it's the job of the coach to be able to steady the ship, drop a game plan, or reconfigure, retool that defense to at least stop the Toronto Raptors from hanging a number on you, right? 13 points in 3 minutes given up. This, I had some flashbacks about that 12-point comeback the last time the Raptors played against the Indiana Pacers. They used the full court press to basically trim that lead down and come all the way back with less than 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter. That's what this kind of reminds me of, except reversed, because the Raptors just put a number on them again in 3 minutes, only this time it's in the first quarter, right? It was not a pretty sight to behold. And I was talking about the mistakes that were made, and the two mistakes here, and they both are timeouts. They both are timeouts, right? You got your main offensive contributors in Jeremy Lamb and TJ Warren missing like bunnies, all right? It's just that speaks to Toronto's defensive ability. But I want to point out these two mistakes. Timeout. So the first timeout is 9:45. The second timeout is 4:57. All right. So a lot of people say that Nate McMillan called the timeout way too late, and I 100% agree. Now, a lot of people say that 1:13 was fine. It's the 4-minute 57 timeout that was not fine. I'm gonna go so far as to argue that the 9:45 timeout was a little bit too late. You see, you're already starting off not very good. By 9:45, 2 minutes 15. You're over 2 minutes into this game, and your only point is one from a field goal by Domantas Sabonis. You look at this is not good at all. Your jump shots aren't falling. You're almost a third done with the fucking quarter, right? You're almost a third of the way through the quarter. You call a timeout at 1:13? No. Some people say this is fine. I really don't think this is. This needs to have been called At 10 minutes 13, when Lowry makes that 27-foot pull-up jump shot to make it 110. You see, some coaches are like, well, wait until it's a double-digit lead, then call a timeout. No, I know it's the first quarter, but god damn it, you let them go on a fucking 9 to 10 to 9-1 run? No, I'm sorry, that can't happen. Or 9-0 run after you score the bucket. This cannot happen. Like, 1 to immediately this right over here, immediately after this 3-point shot goes in, you call that timeout. And if they can't adjust, which they weren't able to, you call it again at 9:45, or better yet, you call it again after both teams are not able to get shit to go down for the 2-minute stretch ranging from the 7-minute mark. Right over here, you just see a huge set of misses from 9 minutes to 7 minutes. Everybody's missing shit. Everybody, not a single point gets made, right? You're stuck at 113 for a good 2 minutes. Boom, 115. Okay, call 3 timeouts if you have to in the first quarter, for crying out loud, because you still have 1 point and you're almost halfway in the quarter. In fact, you only make you get your first layup or field goal at 6 minutes 57 seconds. Yeah, right. Not okay. This is not okay. This timeout, in my opinion, a little too late. You got to call that earlier. And the second timeout was what was even worse. Right? Your first timeout, some can argue it's fine. That second timeout at 4:57, no. It's already 3:19 at this point. You're 16 points down, and your team can't even buy a 3-point shot. That's 8 possessions. You're 8 possessions down. No, this needs to. All the timeouts. Call 3 timeouts if you have to. This shit needs to be earlier. Because if you're starting off this slow, it sets a bad precedent for the rest of the game. And, at the end of this first quarter, I got the impression that the Indiana Pacers would be playing catch-up the entire game. And that's essentially what happened. It was a game of catch-up that the Pacers could not play, because the lead, or the point differential, only grew with each quarter. At one point, it was 30-point differential in the third quarter, and by the time you're in the fourth quarter stretch, it's like 43 points, and the game ended in a 46-point blowout. Right? I don't have anything for you guys in the second quarter except for the fact that Jeremy Lamb has a possible injury, and that kind of. When he gets that left knee injury, I'm like, okay, so they've just lost one of their main offensive go-to guys, right? He had been missing bunnies. He had been playing pretty bad defense. I mean, there was a comment that said protester, a Wet'suwet'en native protester who's blocking the railroad would have been more effective than him. And I thought that was kind of like savage as hell by the guy who decided to make that. But yeah, he's still known for his offense. The fact that he cannot he's gone now. Good luck, right? A good fucking luck. Yeah, and like I kept saying, overall, this differential just could not seem to get any smaller for the Pacers. They never really kept it close after the opening minutes. You go into the third quarter, none of the Pacers are in double digits. You have 49% field goal percentage by Toronto in conjunction, or in comparison, I should say, with a 27% of Indiana. Brogdon this game was not good. He's kind of fallen off the cliff the past month, and people are kind of questioning what's happened to Indiana as a whole the past month, because it's just, they were like pretty good. At one point, they were tied for third seed, and they could make a move like legitimately to capture that third seed, right? Or even second seed. That was like maybe 2 months or a month and a half ago. Now they're stuck in the 6th seed, most likely, now that Kyrie is out for the rest of the season. But a lot of people are saying that Oladipo coming back into the rotation messed up the way the players play, just rotation wise, and that coming along with a shooting slump or offensive slump, whatever you want to call it, in total, has just really tanked the team's seeding chances, right? They're basically locked into this 6th seed. They're going to probably play Boston the first round if, we go into the playoffs today based on the standings. Just not really good overall. So yeah, the rest of the third quarter, there's a brief defensive lapse by Toronto, and Indiana goes on a 6-0 run. Lowry calls a timeout, boom, responds immediately after with a 7-0 run. And Toronto's calling timeouts when it's a single-digit run. It's a 7-0 run, they're calling a 6-0 run, they're calling a timeout. You have Nate McMillan here waiting until it gets to double digits, then he calls his timeout, right? It's just, and the players are able to adjust for Toronto, and they have the defensive intensity tonight, whereas Indiana just didn't. So I go to the fourth quarter, right? It's basically over at this point. Stanley Johnson is playing. You got third stringers. So some guy named Paul Watson's fucking playing. I don't even know he was on the roster, right? Just overall complete evisceration by Indiana. And yeah, I truly think this first quarter, because you end the first quarter with 12-34. Congratulations, you're in a hole. You never managed to make it under 20. They never got to below 20 after this differential. I mean, okay, sorry. At 10:56, they managed to get it below 20, but it's just, you guys get my point, right? It's just they never managed to close the gap, and they put themselves in such a hole. 6:28 at one point. There's like, yeah, no, this is not. This first quarter really was a nail in the coffin. I mean, if they had any business in trying to win the game, they should have done whatever it took to steady this ship and at least get it, 10-17 or something respectable, like cut the lead to single digits before the end of the first quarter, or at least 10-point lead for the Raptors. But that obviously didn't happen. This is the largest margin of victory, or largest point differential victory for Toronto in franchise history, and second largest differential and loss for the Indiana Pacers. So, overall, I feel a little bit better after this game because I saw the Leafs get eviscerated by a Zamboni driver the other night. So this makes me feel better. I'll feel a little bit better if they beat Milwaukee on Tuesday. Well, no, I'll feel definitely better if they beat Milwaukee on Tuesday, right? But this game kind of just shows that the Phoenix game wasn't a fluke, that the Raptors are locked in. They're back to grinding. And yeah, things are looking up for Toronto as they, probably definitely have the second seed locked up at this point. Celtics just lost to the Lakers right before the Raptors game started, I believe, or probably towards the end of the, beginning of the first quarter. So yeah, that seeding for Toronto is looking strong. Indiana, I don't think they'll fall into 7th seed. They're probably looking like a first round exit until they figure shit out. You got people on the subreddit for the Pacers saying fire Nate McMillan, and if you were to fire him, and I'm not against I'm not against his firing or anything like that. I have no position on that. But if you were gonna do it, you should have done this shit yesterday. You're what? You're about you're over the halfway mark of the season. You're about 70% done with the season. If you were going to fire a coach and install a new guy to basically help retool the team and get them ready, you do that before the All-Star break, goddammit, because the later you do it, the less time the team has to, go through the motions of learning under a new coach or trusting each other. It's like a mental cycle everyone goes through when there's somewhat of a regime change, right? They have less time to do that. That means they have less time to get back to where they were 2 months ago. Yeah, if you were gonna fire him, you do it yesterday. But that doesn't mean don't fire him now. Just do it sooner than later if you're gonna fire him as the Indiana front office. But yeah, Malcolm Brogdon, he's got to figure it out. Went from being a 50, 40, 90 player to just offensively horrible. Let's just say that. He was brought in to be kind of the guy to shoulder the offensive load, a little bit, spare Oladipo from taking on the main load and even fill in as he was gone, along with Domantas Sabonis right now. That does not appear to be the case. And you got to keep in mind, Toronto also has injuries this game. I mean, more people from Toronto's roster were out tonight. And McCaw, I think, had a flu. Powell, Gasol. Gasol has hamstring tightness. He could have been cleared today. He wasn't, but he wasn't, right? Powell still's got that fractured finger. So yeah, Toronto wasn't even at full strength. I'm not saying Indiana was either, but yeah, you see here two teams going in very different directions. One's heading to a little bit of a late season collapse or continuing to collapse, and the other one seems to be on track to make a splash in the playoffs. But yeah, guys, that's all I have for you in this video. I mean, a couple of the comments that I looked up that I took a couple pictures of were, what was it? This was the... Oh yeah, another one was, we got blown out today. Yikes, by how much? 30 points, 40. Stanley Johnson's playing 10 minutes. It was on the Indiana Pacers subreddit. Just kind of sums it up. And I feel bad for the Pacers. I really do, because they had a chance of giving a lot of teams like, Miami or basically anyone they played. If you had taken the Pacers team 2 months ago, right, they had a chance of competing with almost anyone, save for maybe Milwaukee and a fully fresh and fully clicking on all cylinders Sixers team. They could have competed with Miami. They could have competed with the Celtics. They could even compete with Toronto. I mean, they won a game against Toronto, for crying out loud. So yeah, I feel kind of bad, but yeah, I'll see you guys after Tuesday's game against the Bucks.